Hello, I'm Miss Katumesk, and this is the third part of the ApexX First Voyage demonstration. We're in Arbiter. We've just killed the tower that was summoning a variety of aggressive bulls, and I'm running around killing the helpless creatures that had puked out into the world before that. Oh, there's a fucked projectile. Yes, I was just talking about how the Type 2s were basically abandoned because of issues just like that. This one isn't bugged. No, this one's very real. And it doesn't do anything particularly major yet. These units were largely left unfinished in favor of finishing Arbiter-specific stuff. But suffice to say, a great deal is planned for them. With the tower destroyed, it is time to head to the last tower, the third tower, because 3, within the far reaches of Arbiter. There, a final opponent awaits us. The ball I had gone into that tower to destroy was already dead, which meant a Type 2 should have been active. But I couldn't locate it. Sometimes units go missing with an Arbiter. I think that perhaps a clown runs around stealing them. Whatever the case is, we're gonna head off now. You may have noticed, ApexX doesn't have any fixed arenas. We are choosing to fight many of the enemies that we are encountering right now, either because it is convenient for us to get them out of our way now before things go to shit. After all, imagine dealing with all the fucking night dwellers on top of the weeds. And it's also for demonstrational purposes. Well, there's many aspects to this observation. The AI is not aggressive enough to chase you around a lot right now. But suffice to say, I'm not really gonna try to super go out of my way to stop you from just running past shit. I'd rather the AI have the tools to punish you for ignoring them, such as being able to navigate around the map and complete their own objectives, for example. Having RTS or macro-scaled gameplay was one of the things I actually planned for the first voyage. The Kamiho at Tier 2 Fox was going to have macro-styled elements, where she conjures stuff across the map and summons specters that hunt you, and if you chose just to ignore her, she would eventually infest the map with hazards. These kinds of things will permit me to do things like allow you to navigate the map at will using travel forum or whatever you wish, and not really have to worry about the map being balanced around you bypassing content, something that companies like Blizzard continually whinge about. People like to ignore grind. People like to ignore things that they feel like don't contribute to their experience with the game. So the key is to make all content relevant by making all content interactive. That means units that roam the map, play the map, and interact with the map and you on their own volition instead of waiting for you to come and find them. Therefore, we don't really need to lock the player into arenas. The major exception to this rule would be bosses. A boss was planned for ApexX First Voyage. His name was Korodai, and he was one of the White's Phantom Templar. Something a step up from these guys. Perhaps modeled a little bit off of Gilgamesh from Fate, throwing swords and jumping around, beating your face in with a very large sword. I went through an exceptional amount of effort preparing AI functionality for him so he could read your states. As opposed to doing input reads, I have the AI actually look at the target that they're focused on and figure out what the target is doing, as opposed to just flipping things on because you pushed a button like they do in Dark Souls and every other similar title. I didn't even get remotely close to demonstrating him. By the time I was looking at building the objectives, the simple things like killing the crows to open the crow wall and other such things, I only had about 3 days until Christmas, my self-imposed hard deadline to release this. Getting in a boss seemed absolutely impossible. Even the Fire Magus wasn't demonstrable at that point. These units, simply codenamed Gundovar soldiers, are dialed-down versions of what would have been the boss within the First Division, were it not scrapped. They are extremely derpy, and they're really just here just to show you what I left behind. Lots of strange things like facing in the wrong directions and twitching around violently. This is due to my effort to fuse something called the flanking system into my own AI network. It is basically designed to have the AI continually attempt to circle around you, or at least get out of your line of fire. But it doesn't behave well in the setup I have, and I'm going to have to do something different. Also, I'm pretty sure that when Epic changed the Find Navigable Radius node, it totally busted the way some of those nodes work. So, just in general, I need to make my own flanking system. Something probably based on tasks and not services. Well, when the Gunnivar soldiers actually work correctly and don't just kind of twitch around or get stuck, they can actually be a bit of a menace. Part of the problem with that is that their stagger health is actually a little bit too high and regenerates a little too quickly. It sort of exposes some of the inherent problems with the system. In order for these enemies to really be dangerous, they have to be effectively immune to stun, or at least very difficult to stun, and it kind of results in them slowly chiseling you down. They're not actually really that aggressive, as you can see. The other super major problem is that the flanking service causes them to turn in place while attacking, just like in those Souls games, which is ridiculously stupid. So, it certainly stands for a good observation, but I don't consider this unit particularly demonstrable. I just kind of put them here just to complete the experience. Yeah, that was a Souls experience, that's for sure. Making duel fights that feel good, that's certainly a very tall order, because pretty much none of these games have done that well except for DMC3, and only with some of the fights. So, we're kind of working from scratch. But we're kind of getting to the stage where we can actually start tackling that challenge. I know now that the stagger system I had first written out for this project is probably not going to work, and I'm probably going to have to reimagine it. And I may even have to change the way mobs and players handle stagger as much as I don't want to. That said, the Gunnivar soldier being stagger resistant isn't necessarily bad in itself. It's when it's coupled with the tracking behavior that it becomes really annoying. You pretty much have to time yourself around them just like in Souls. And just like Souls, it turns it into a turn-based game. Let's go see what I managed to slap together within the very last day of the project's work life. I call it schwa. And much just like the real person, Schwa completely disappears without ceremony when you finally slap enough shit out of her. Evidently, I cut to one of my successful attempts. It took a few tries. Also, I discovered a bug I had to fix before actually shipping this. That's been the story of the last week after I built Schwa. Because this didn't get released on the 25th. I encountered far too many issues. Both Schwa and the Fire Magus had a combined total of about 2 days of work placed into them. Somehow I have issues with things like doors and keys, but when it came to 2 of the most sophisticated units in the entire project and all the content associated with them, I was able to slap them together with only a few major issues like how the EQS system was bugging out for the Magus. Schwa is much more than happy to introduce you to her balls, her prickly balls, which also explode, of course. The gas clouds do stagger damage, but they also set off prickly balls. You can't manage the entire battlefield, but you have to make sure that Schwa doesn't end up zoning you with balls of various kinds before they start exploding. Knowing where to place yourself and where to navigate when Schwa starts running around is critical to survival. Those huge arms have very tight collision, but getting hit by them hurts, even if it's not a direct attack. For example, when Schwa uses her engage or disengage, if you're in the way of them, you will take damage, and a sizable amount of stagger damage. Release your stagger in this fight, or you'll find yourself stun-locked in the gas clouds, which leaves you vulnerable to getting bombed. I'm not particularly happy with the way stagger plays in this fight. I think that being in the gas clouds should be punishing, but we desperately need directional get-hit animations, so you don't always go backwards when you are stunned. It should repel you away from the cloud, not arbitrarily backwards, but that's one of the many things I never got around to doing. And this fight is particularly punishing for that. When you defeat Schwa, that's it. You're trapped in your closet, and you can't get out. This is the end of the First Voyage's major demo, Arbiter. Now we will move on to the next video, where I will discuss a roadmap for 2023, provided I manage to live that long and don't end up on the street.